Okay, here we go, everybody. If you are here online or in person, you are here for the annual membership meeting for the Cowlitz County Historical Society. This is the first time we were meeting again in person in 3 years. We had our meetings remotely the last 2 years for, we won't have to mention why, I think we all know why. My name is Joseph Govednik. I'm the director of the Cowlitz County Historical Museum, and I did do a head count here. We do not quite have a quorum of Historical Society members here, so this technically is not a meeting. It is a getting together, a gathering, hanging out, and getting an update of the things we would talk about at a official meeting. Fortunately, we didn't have any action items we had to vote on, so we will move forward with our brief business agenda, and then we'll go into our program. I first also want to apologize for the lack of heat in the building. We've had some temperature fluctuations where it was getting as hot as 85 degrees in the back offices as of last week. We tried to recalibrate, and we recalibrated a little bit too much, so we're down to about 65 degrees in the building, and we will figure it out. And among some of the things I will report on is the status of the HVAC upgrade and replacement that we are getting here for this building.
Joseph, would you remind us how long you've been here?
Yes, 5.5 years, just about, almost 5.5 years. But oh, thank you. And the first person to clap is the man who was here for 31 years. I see in our audience, David Freese, my predecessor. Thank you so much. And that means 5.5 years of retirement too for David. So congratulations on 5.5 years of fishing and riding your bike and reading the newspaper and all that stuff that goes along with retirement. I will also apologize if we have any technical hiccups. We had some last minute issues with our technology, so we might need a moment just to transition from one camera to the other. This is being recorded. We also are going to have a 3 short films made by our very own curator, Bill Watson, who is also on the Historical Preservation Commission board. And we'll see those at the end of the presentation by 2 of our historic preservation commissioners who are our featured entertainment and presentation tonight or this afternoon. And that will be Harve Williamson and Joel Rupley. And I will introduce them again momentarily after I give our president, Nick Fazio, a moment to address our crowd. He is out of the area right now, so he will be actually addressing us through the beauty of Zoom technology that we've all learned to love and despise and be, ambivalent about over the last 2 years. So I'm going to turn Nick on and give him his president's remarks. There we are, Nick. If you can hear me, you are live and on the big screen. Bill, can we dim the lights just a moment?
Great. And Joseph, are you able to hear me okay in there?
Yes.
Okay, great. And just to clarify before I get started here, our lack of quorum include those of us that are online, right? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, no problems. Well, thank you. Welcome everyone to our annual membership get together. We won't call it a meeting since we don't quite have the numbers we need, but it's good to see you all. I am sorry that I'm not there in person. I'm joining you from bright, sunny New Mexico right now, although it's quite cold here too. So I guess we have that in common. And I just want to say thank you for joining us and taking some time away on your Sunday afternoon to participate and check in, see what we're up to. This is the last annual membership get-together / meeting that I'll be joining you as president, and I really have to say I'm super touched and really appreciative of my experience on the board in general, but also being the president for the past 2 years. It's been really wonderful. Of course, as Joseph mentioned earlier, it did not come without its challenges. Doing a lot of meeting and a lot of work remote, and not being able to spend time with each other in person maybe as much as we'd like. But nonetheless, the board was really instrumental in keeping the Historical Society going. Of course, couldn't have done it without staff. But I want to highlight just one of our most significant milestones, one of our major achievements, which is that we were able to adopt, and we've now started to implement, a new strategic plan. And this was a heavy lift for a variety of reasons, but I can't understate the importance of a strategic plan and how it in ideal circumstances should really help us advance what we're here to do, our vision and our mission. None of that exists without a strategic plan that is relevant, that is in place for us to refer back to. I'll keep it short. Much like the plan is short because we wanted to be able to use it. It shouldn't sit on a shelf. It shouldn't collect dust. It should be something that is actionable and something that we refer to guide our work and to better serve our community, better serve our membership, all of you. And I believe that's what we have been able to achieve with this new strategic plan. I encourage all of you, if you've not had a chance to take a look at that, if you have questions, I certainly hope that you'll connect with us. Joseph is a great resource at the museum. But one of the key things about our new strategic plan that I think is really, really valuable is that it is a collaborative work product that really was driven not just by the board members, but also with staff as equal partners, because as I've mentioned earlier, we can't do it without staff. They are truly responsible for implementing the strategic plan. And so the fact that our new plan incorporated and included them from the beginning, I think is a really special achievement. We do have a vision and we do have a mission that are both incorporated in those plans, or in that plan. And those will be the only things about the plan that I'll read today. So I'll start off with our vision. And then the revised vision statement that we've got for the Historical Society is that we envision a region of communities that values the unique cultures of the past and present through education, collaboration, and celebration. As Joseph mentioned, we're going to have a very great presentation from members of the Cowlitz County Historic Preservation Program. And this is living proof, right, of the sort of collective work that it takes to achieve our vision. And I think it's also worth stating that we may never fully achieve a vision. That's why it's a vision. It's something we should strive to. And I think today's sort of collaborative work is a really good example of that. Moving on to our mission, our revised mission statement is that the Cowlitz County Historical Museum stewards, preserves, and shares the physical and cultural heritage of our community through stories, collections, and perspectives. And so that is a really great segue to talk about one of the things that we have to look forward to over the next 18 months, which is the collection storage project. And I know Joseph is going to be giving us some more information and some more updates about that and some of our other efforts. But this collection storage project is really essential for the museum. After all, what is a museum without its collection? So as we're looking to make ourselves future ready, right? And by future ready, I mean really resilient and successful and have the ability to thrive deep into the future. We have to acknowledge that to achieve that vision and further our mission, we need to invest resources. We've had a couple opportunities over the past decade to invest resources into our museum. That beautiful permanent exhibit that hopefully all of you have had the chance to look at required resource investment. And it's now time for us to circle back and invest more resources into our facility. And so over the next 18 months, we're going to be looking to advance a fundraising campaign to help us meet our commitments. And this is a project that has been sort of cobbled together with some grant funding from the state. So the majority of that funding, or a large portion of that funding, is coming from our statewide partners that are granting us the funds to achieve this project, but we are responsible for raising some funds ourselves. And just so we're clear on what that project is, this is a collection storage project. It involves the installation of new shelving system that is collapsible, that increases our efficiency, increases our organization, and helps us safeguard our collection for years to come. And so I hope everyone here will help us and joining us in meeting our goals to safeguard that collection in the future. And this is so that we can continue doing the fun stuff. It's not fun or sexy necessarily to talk about shelving. But without that shelving, we can't continue to do our programs and events like First Thursday. We're less able to bring history into classrooms through our traveling trunk program, for example, and the most important part, which is making real life connections with all of you. So you'll receive more communications from us in the coming months, and there will be more opportunities for charitable giving. But of course, there are many ways to give to the museum, and it looks different for everyone. So I also want to thank our board members, both current and past, who have committed themselves tirelessly to sometimes exciting and innovative and other times mundane work of running a historical society. And so finally, I'll just say that after our director gives some updates, I personally am looking very much forward to our presenters. We've got some great connections with the Cowlitz County Historic Preservation Commission, excuse me. And one of those connections that we have is that Bill Watson, our curator, serves on the Historic Preservation Commission in an advisory capacity. It's my understanding that they've been doing some really exciting work and have made some headway and reached some significant milestones of their own. And from the get-go, the Historic Preservation Program was always more than just historic-looking buildings, right? I was there at the founding of the Historic Preservation Program with Joel, with Harve. I hope I get to see them on screen because it's been a while since I've been able to connect with them. But truly, the Historic Preservation Program was about recognizing that places are important. They, through their histories, become significant. They get imbued with meaning, intrinsic value, a lot of love, and hopefully a lot of care. So I'm excited to hear from them this afternoon. And most importantly, as I reach my closing statement, I want to elevate that the reason we're all here, which is a love for our community and a love for history, can only thrive with collaboration and partnership. We truly are all in the business of making a better place for the future by learning from our past. And so with that, I want to thank you all again. I'll turn it back over to Joseph for his comments, and then hopefully we'll get into a great presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It's still got Nick as the, and just one moment, please. We work through our technology here.
Oh, no, we'll leave that there. So that's good.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Nick. And if you didn't hear, there was an applause for you in the room with our live studio audience. And normally we would have a brief treasurer's report. However, our treasurer is not here, and we don't have a quorum. So we do have our financial report from the treasurer from the last board meeting in October. And we have a hard copy in the back. If anybody is in our online audience who would like a copy of it via electronic, we can do that. And we'll have copies for the next month available on our at our front desk if anybody would like to come by and pick up a copy. And if there's any questions, please feel free to talk to me or contact Tom Pence, our treasurer, and possibly Bob Chase is our maybe incoming treasurer. It looks like heir apparent, I think, because we are looking at a transition. So he might be able to help us out with some questions that people might have. And Bob's in our audience here too. So Anyway, copies of that are on the back table if you have a desire to take a look at those. Moving along to director's remarks, we do have 3 new board members that have joined the organization. We have Susie Lee, who is a retired school teacher who has a 30-year career in education at the Longview School District. She worked at Mint Valley and Kessler Elementary. Dina Enyart has 31 years and counting in Longview School District, and she taught world history and Washington state history. And Eric Moser, who is the right now he's the interim manager of the Kelso Public Library, and he's got a very diverse background. Actually, he's worked as a legal researcher, a librarian, software developer, and he has a degree in neurobiology and a master's in library and information science. So he's got quite a broad spectrum of background. So I was going to share just a little bit about the year in review in a couple bullet points here. One of them is our education programs, and those were severely impacted when COVID hit. Everything had to go online, and it was very chaotic in the very beginning. We were at that point where we were looking to how could we duplicate Danielle? How could we make another Danielle? Because we were telling the schools that we couldn't, we had to turn them down for her programs. Our traveling trunk program, which Danielle, our program manager, runs, were so desired and in such demand that we were beginning to have to tell people we don't have the staff to do that. And we were at that point of trying to find out the solution, and then we had this virus that hit. And so we transitioned to online, and the schools were trying to scramble to figure out what to do. So the demand had gone down as far as the traveling trunk program and converting it to online. And then it started to pick up again in the online and later on in a hybrid format where we could offer the programs in either way as the schools chose or as safety requirements dictated. But I'm pleased to report, though, that since that original slump that we had from a couple years ago, we've had about an 80% increase in students served again. And we had 368 students from 6 schools and 46 programs delivered last year. And during the summer, we had 16 programs with 268 students served for a total of 636 local children. We hadn't really offered much in the way of the summer school programs before, but what COVID did was create that extra need for more educational opportunities where kids could catch up on some of the learning that they lost during the traditional academic year. And Danielle stepped up to the plate and delivered, and those programs brought in quite a few more contacts with schools. So we're looking forward to seeing these numbers continue to develop and evolve and get stronger, so that we hope that we end up in the situation we were in back in 2019, where what do? We need to have a replication machine here, or find another way to bring another person on board that could help deliver these traveling trunk programs, because it's a lot easier to go to the classroom and bring some history there than it is to bring the children to the museum. As much as I would love to have school buses here and children to come here, the scheduling can become a little bit more problematic, whereas the traveling trunk program, we just make it very convenient to the schools. I would like to do both ideally, but the traveling trunk program has been a great success, and I want to thank Danielle for that and for her energy in that program. We also, this year, we dabbled in connecting with some of our local artist communities. We had a local artist, Hans, I might mispronounce his name because I think I've done that before, Schaffus, Hans Schaffus. Hans Schaffus, and he is a photographic artist and a community activist, and we put some of his art on, some of his black and white photographs on display in our temporary gallery, and there was a lot of interest in his subject matter there, which was actually Eastern Germany photographs, and they were kind of dreary and black and white, and we had that up in the dead of winter here, so you can enjoy the gray outside and then come inside and enjoy more grayscale in that, although we did have a few other tidbits in the exhibit to add some color to it. We also had, currently right now, we have Nick Ciancibelli, who is a local artist, and he has Longview themed art. So if you go into our temporary gallery, you'll see images of houses and buildings and structures that are in Longview, and those have been on display the last few months. We also we're a hosting venue for the Columbia Artist Association, and they had their annual spring show here. They've had it at other venues before. This was the first time we had it here. It was actually our first packed event where we had, you know, over 50 people in the museum since COVID's hit. We had not had a big shindig here, and then we had their annual spring show, and it really filled up the place, and it was just exciting to see that kind of energy back again in this building after so many months of quiet. Our first Thursday programs came back live. It's been nice to have people coming into the museum again instead of only being online. We do offer it still as a hybrid program for those who choose to stay home. Next first Thursday will actually be in early January, and that is our staff picks program, where the staff at the museum pick the favorite items that came in the previous year. And so we look forward to, Bill, do you remember when that would be? Was that the 5th of, yeah, Bill's going to help us with our calendar. 5th of January, I thought. The first Thursday in January. The 5th. Okay, got it right. All right. And then we'll have on February 2nd, Cowlitz County Corrections Director Marin Fox will talk to us about the history of the Cowlitz County Jail. Our final event for this year is the annual Winterfest, which, again, this is a year of a lot of things coming back live in person here. We will have this room that we're in filled with people for Winter Festival, which is Sunday, the 4th of December from noon until 4 o'clock. We had previously, the last couple years, done a gift activity bag program where we would give bags out to cars that would drive by in the parking lot so that we would not have to have this place populated with people during COVID. Now we're going to have a live event with families and children again. So if you can, please come and attend Winterfest. January 5th is the first Thursday program. The 4th of December is Winterfest, and that's from noon until 4 o'clock. And I think we're usually looking for volunteers. I don't know if Danielle has reached out to any of you yet, but if you are interested in volunteering, let us know, because we usually are looking for volunteers to work some of the craft tables here in the room. We are continuing to have our Today in Cowlitz County History program on the radio. On I get the letters mixed up sometimes on which station it's on. It's on I know it's, yeah, it is recorded. K-Log. That's right, K-Log. It's on K-Log. It used to be on one of the other sister stations, and then they switched it to K-Log. I'm sorry. And then we just started a partnership, and this is kind of neat because we do connect with other organizations. Like Bill is on the board for the Cowlitz County Preservation Commission. We just launched a podcast with the Department of Emergency Services, which is a county department too, where we talk about emergency preparedness, but we use a historical disaster or a historical example to provide some content. This is a project that Larry Hembry from Department of Emergency Services has initiated, but he's invited us to participate as sort of a minor co-host in a way, and that's already launched and is available to see. So we're definitely connecting with other agencies and organizations. We also do sit on the Longview Centennial Planning Committee for the big events of next year. And speaking of next year, we will have a new exhibit in our exhibit area. We were considering making it a Longview specific for the Centennial, but then we realized that 2023 1923 had several other things going on in it too. So in a discussion with Bill, our curator, the tentative working title is 1923, the year that changed Cowlitz County history, because you have Longview, you have Riderwood, you have the Allen Street Bridge collapse, you have the change of the county seat from Kalama to Kelso, among other things. So we'll have an exhibit that it will focus considerably, of course, on Longview because that's so impactful to this area. But we want to also touch on some of these other events that happened a century ago. As Nick mentioned, the collection storage project is coming up. That is a project that's in part funded by the state Capital Heritage Grant project, or Capital Heritage Grants. And if you haven't seen these collection storage units, they're called compactor storage. And so the shelves are on tracks. And imagine being in a supermarket and having them act like a trash compactor, where they compact, like in Star Wars when they were stuck in the waste chute in the trash compactor. They go like that, and by doing such, you can eliminate multiple aisles of wasted space. You only need really one aisle, and then you can move these aisles, these shelves over back and forth, and it'll give us about 50% more storage space in room 10, which is one of our largest storage rooms here on site at the museum. We have a new HVAC system that is tentatively slated to be installed in May and June, and that we just had our first construction meeting on that last week. So we are looking forward to having air conditioning and heat back in here under normal controls. So again, I apologize for the cool temperature in here, but we're working on it. Final notes I have before I introduce our guest speakers again is that I think a membership meeting next year might be more fun, and don't hold me to this just now, but maybe we make it a dinner or a lunch or some kind of an event with, I'd heard in the past that the society used to have a dinner periodically, and I think it might be nice to bring a dinner back for our annual meeting so we can have a little bit of food and a little bit of a different environment instead of just creating a meeting that's like a First Thursday program in a sense. So if you have an interest in that, let me know if you have any thoughts about that. But it would be nice to have some kind of a dinner gathering for members only for the society. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to our friends here from the Historic Preservation Commission. We have Joel Rupley and Harve Williamson, and Joel is a former county commissioner and he's the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, and Harve is knee deep and neck deep probably in Stella Historical Society, but he's also a deputy director of the or deputy chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. We have Dr. Rice here, who's also, I believe you're on the commission too, right? But you're not presenting. We won't throw you in front of everybody. And then Bill Watson. So what we do have a quorum is of our Historic Preservation Commission. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it to our two speakers who will give a brief presentation about the Historic Preservation Commission and some of the works that they're doing in the Cowlitz Trail project. And then we will watch 3 short movies that our very own Bill Watson produced for the commission on that trail project. And then we'll turn it over to Q&A with our presenters after that. So I will turn it over to our two presenters, Joel and Harve.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Joel Rupley. I have been involved with a lot of different parts of Cowlitz County, and so the Historic Preservation Commission is relatively new. It was founded in 2016 by the Board of County Commissioners, and we have 5 voting members. and then a non-voting representative, which is Bill. The current members are me, I'm the chair, Harve Williamson from Stella, and he's the vice chair. Aaron Thoney from Woodland, and everybody recognizes the Thoney name who knows anything about Woodland. Dr. David Rice, who's sitting right there, and Butch Ogden, who is our newest member. He's from North County, and so we kind of spread out from Woodland all the way up to the north part of the county. And of course, as I mentioned, Bill Watson, who's the curator here. I should mention as well, we also have some connection with the Cowlitz tribe. They come to send a representative to our meetings from time to time, not every meeting, but often. And so that connection, of course, David works doing archaeology with some concerns about tribal history and all of that. So anyway, during our startup years, excuse me, Portland State University sent us 5 graduate students, and they helped us write a heritage master plan. And here's the plan. Look at how big this thing is. This is what we try to progress on. And anyway, it's a good document. And some guy named Nick Fazio was our staff then, and he was really instrumental in getting us going. He's really good, helped us get it up and running. We have decided that we are a people-driven organization, and our focus is on what it was like to live here during various historic times. So it's people-oriented, and that's a key piece. Yes, we're trying to do some projects that involve inventories and things like that, but it's how it impacts people that really makes a difference. And so what we're saying is we're a part of history. All of you, we're a part of history. What did you experience in your lives here in Cowlitz County? For example, here's a silly example. Mount St. Helens, anybody hear that? It went off a few times, more than once. And one of those times, it blew over Cowlitz County instead of east. And so there was a lot of ash and dust and little granules of things. And remember, maybe you guys remember, word got out that we should actually put nylon stockings, nylon hoses over our car air intake so that we didn't get our cylinders clogged up with particles. That's part of history. We are part of history. And actually, people coming in the future are going to be part of history. It's people oriented. So that's what we try to focus on. And so we're going to have some videos today about what it was like here and there. And of course, we're working on the Cowlitz Trail project. We're just finishing that up. And there's 4 brochures back there, and I hope everybody can pick up. There's 4 each. in a little back and forth file, and please take them. And how it was to get from Portland up to the Puget Sound. It had to go right through here. Well, it's pretty easy along the river, right? I mean, you're on a river going downstream if you're going up from there. But when you get here, you got to start taking the trail, and it was pretty difficult, as it turns out. In one of our, I did a little work on one of the pieces that looked at research for crossing the Kalama River, which was just total mush. It was total mush. And then you had to get up over Carroll's. So it was not an easy trip. We are, though, we've created these brochures so that both visitors and locals can have a sense, an easy read sense of our history here and the trail project that it took to get out of. And we're going to try to put a bunch of these up in the rest stop along the freeway, so that visitors can oh yeah, that's, as they drive along, they'll begin to understand a little bit about what it was like. We're also working on an inventory of historic buildings and gathering archaeological information. George Wynn was our staff after Nick left, and he coordinated a tremendous amount of work for us. And now he's quit. And so we have a new staff coming on, Adam Trimble, who you may know. He was working for the city for quite a while, and now he's working for Cowlitz County. And he will be our new staff. So I'm going to ask Harve to come up and talk about some of our projects. Thank you.
Well, hello. I'm the deputy chair of the Cowlitz County Historic Preservation Commission, and I am really pleased to work with Joel and Dr. Rice and Bill and Aaron and Butch. They are just really good. And like I say, we owe a debt of gratitude to you, the president of the Cowlitz County Historical Society. Nick Fazio, is instrumental in really lifting us off the ground. So we really appreciate you, Nick. Anyway, I have a few remarks here. The Cowlitz County Historic Preservation Commission is a people-driven organization. Your commissioners want our work to be transparent, public, and inclusive. People-driven, transparent, and inclusive are the three principles I think that the Cowlitz County Preservation Commission strives toward. Early on, the commission amended its bylaws to include cultural aspects of our mission. We acknowledge that our county's lands has been occupied from time immemorial. We seek collaboration with our tribal neighbors, and we strive to recognize and respect all of the citizens in our corner of this planet. Being a people-driven organization, the Cowlitz County Preservation Commission has reached out to the people to create an inventory of cultural and real properties throughout the county. We feel the people of Cowlitz County are the best source for information for our inventory properties. The inventory process is one step and a two-step process to nominate properties to become part of the Cowlitz County Historic Registry. You may have seen our booths at Squatch Fest, Cowlitz County Fair, or Woodlands Planters Day. And you gotta go to Woodlands Planters Day. It's a blast. We really had a great time there. In our outreach, we asked the people for locations and places in our county that were significant to them. Our outreach will continue because you, the people, are the future. Our outreach methods were recognized in May of 2019 by the State of Washington's Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. We were recognized for our direct outreach, and with the help of Portland State University's urban planning program and about 4,000 miles of snipe hunts we took these guys on, we put our heritage plan together, and it's quite extensive. We had a good time. We will continue our outreach efforts in public at public events, and we would like to know if there are any public events around here that we are missing, because we want to show up and talk to more people. These videos that you're about to see show Cowlitz County as a binding force between two cultural and commercial centers, the Columbia River estuary and the Puget Sound, known as the Cowlitz Corridor, or at least that's what I call it anyway. The Cowlitz Corridor project addresses the aspects of that binding connection from its geologic formation to its present configuration. These are: one, seeing the corridor as a binding together in early indigenous peoples as a corridor for cultural and economic activity. Two, to seeing the earliest European American uses of the corridor, such as the Hudson's Bay Company for its seasonal canoe shipping between Cowlitz Farm and Fort Vancouver, and as a way north to Fort Nisqually. And three, swimming oxen teams across the extensive mud flats of the Cathlaputal River, which is now the Lewis River, and the Kalama River mud flats. And four, the coming of the Pacific Highway, which tied Oregon and Washington states together as we know them today. The commission has produced those 4 pamphlets down there. Now, you can't take just one, you got to take 4, because they are really good. We have really had a great time working on them, and hopefully they will give people a sense of place. The commission has produced these 4 pamphlets for you to take and distribute, and we are going to have them probably in some public places for people to pick up. And now on to the future. The inventory, this inventory that we've been doing about significant places in our county, gives us a preview of possible geographic candidates to place on the county register of historic places. Geographic candidates are public as well as private structures and locations that reflect the heritage of our county. Through the hard work of Aaron Thoney, I hope you're listening, Aaron, and thanks to Bill Watson, we will be ready in February to send out the postcards asking people if they would like to opt in to joining the Cowlitz County Historic Registry, or to be taken off our inventory altogether. On behalf of the hardworking and intrepid county staff, my fellow commissioners, Joel Rupley, Dr. David Rice, Aaron Thoney, Bill Watson, and Butch Ogden, and all of our past preservation commissioners, we would like to thank you, the people of Cowlitz County, and our Cowlitz County commissioners. Enjoy the videos, and we look forward to the future through the perspective of the past. And I have a couple of besides here. We would like to thank George Wynn, our retiring county staff member, for his creativity and go-gettedness. I'm going to call it go-gettedness. And I do have some advice for him, and that is, George, a rolling stone gathers no moss. So get out there and rock and roll. And our commissioners now welcome aboard Alan Trimble as our new county staff. And I got a question for you, Alan. You want to do this? Thank you very much. Technology. Did we go offline?
Hi, I'm Bill Watson, the curator, and you're about to see the videos that I made for the Cowlitz Trails project. And we're going to start with the Wilkes expedition. So Joanna, go ahead and press play.
The morning proved beautiful, and one of the finest days succeeded that I ever remember to have seen. Our route lay through alternate woods and prairies, the former composed of large pines and cedars. Several considerable streams of water were passed, whose banks were not so high as those before met with, the latter covered with strawberries, so tempting as to induce us to dismount and feast upon them. After passing extensive camas plains, we reached the company's farm on the Cowlitz, which occupies an extensive prairie on the banks of that river. They have here 600 or 700 acres enclosed and under cultivation, with several large granaries, a large farmhouse, and numerous outbuildings to accommodate the dairy, workmen, cattle, and company. The grounds appear well prepared and were covered with a luxuriant crop of wheat. At the farther end of the prairie was to be seen a settlement with its orchards and company, and between the trees, the chapel and parsonage of the Catholic mission gave an air of civilization to the whole. We were kindly received by Mr. Forrest, the superintendent, who quickly made arrangements for canoes to carry us down the Cowlitz and Columbia River to Astoria, or Fort George. The guide that Mr. Forrest had sent for was one Simon Plamondon, whom I engaged to carry us to Astoria. He had been for several years in this territory, having left the company service, married an Indian wife, and was now living on a farm of about 50 acres at the Cowlitz, independent and contented. Plamondon engaged several of the young Indians to accompany him, and with 2 canoes we were all accommodated. The price for each Indian was to be a check shirt. About a mile from the farmhouse we descended a steep bank, 200 feet high to the river, where we found our canoes waiting for us. The Cowlitz was here about 200 yards wide and very rapid. Our company, or rather crew, consisted of 9 young Indians. We were soon seated and gliding down the stream, while each boatman exerted his full strength to send us onward. Just before sunset, when we thought we had made 9 miles, we landed and pitched our tents on a small island in the river. At the place where we embarked, I tried the velocity of the stream, which I found 3 miles per hour, but in some places it was much more rapid. The temperature of its water was 48 degrees Fahrenheit. The next morning we made a start betimes in order to reach Astoria at an early hour. A short distance below our encampment, we passed the east fork of the Cowlitz, which is smaller and not navigable even for canoes. We also passed the mouths of several small streams on the west side. Plamondon pointed out that side of the river to me as good trapping ground, and amused me by the narration of many of the difficulties he had to encounter in taking his game. About noon we reached the Columbia. On our way, we met with many canoes passing up, loaded with salmon and trout, which had been taken at the Willamette Falls, which they were then carrying to trade with the Indians for camas root. We obtained some of the fish as a supply for our Indians. The Cowlitz River takes its rise in the Cascade Range near Mount Rainier and has many short turns in it. Its banks are tolerably high until it approaches the Columbia. It is only at high water in the spring and fall that the river can be used for boating, at which time the supplies from Vancouver are sent and the grain and company returned in large flat barges. The soil along the river appears to be of a good quality, a clayey loam with vegetable mold over trap rock and sandstone. The prevalent trees were poplars, soft maples, ash, fir, pine, and cedar, with some laurel, where the prairies are so low as to be flooded in the month of May. On this river, it was reported that coal of a good quality existed, but I examined all the places that indicated it and only found lignite. This exists in several places, but the largest quantity lies above the East Fork. Several specimens of it were obtained. In the month of September following, I examined the Cowlitz and found it exhibiting a very different character. A few miles above its mouth, there was not water enough to float even a boat, and it was besides filled with rapids. It is not navigable for barges more than 3 months in the year. The distance we passed down the Cowlitz did not exceed 26 miles, although we had been told it was more than 40. The route by the way of the Cowlitz will in all probability be that which will hereafter be pursued to the northern waters and sounds. Although there are many difficulties in crossing the rivers and company, yet it is believed to be the most feasible course. After many windings through thickets and swamps, passing on our way several Indian burying grounds, we came at last to the banks of Lewis River, which had been swelled by the rains to an alarming volume. After hallooing for some time, 2 men came over in a yawl and told us we would have to wait some days for the river to fall, as it would be impossible to cross our oxen over, the river really dashing by like a mill race. I was very anxious for a trial, but he refused to risk it. Being determined to proceed, I asked what he would charge to tie a rope to the horns of our leading ox, and going over in the yawl, just row as I ordered. $1.50, he said. I took the weakest ox, fastened the rope, and started off. When they had advanced a few feet from shore, I drove the others in. The men kept calling out, warning me that the cattle would drown, and to desist, but our animals had become strong from their rest at Vancouver, and were willing. The men kept rowing upstream, and finally all landed safely on the other shore. I had taken the precaution to leave an extra rope that, in case any one of them gave out, we could assist them, but there was no occasion. All came safely over. The ferryman, during the operation, was white as a sheet, fearing we should lose them. Said never since he had kept the ferry had any cattle crossed at such a stage of water. He offered us $150 a pair for them, but I would not have sold them at any price, for they constituted all our worldly wealth. We remained with these men all night, and learned from them that there were 4 or 5 men ahead about a mile, who had come to a halt, finding it impossible to proceed further, and they assured us we would be compelled also to wait there till spring. Some ominous twitchings in my ankle almost persuaded me to remain, but I was anxious to fulfill my part of the contract with Wilson, and not disappoint him, and therefore pushed on up the Cowlitz Trail. We soon came to the party, and ascertained from one of them that he had been ahead 2 miles to reconnoiter, and found it so exceedingly swampy that it was impossible to proceed. We plodded on doggedly, and when we came to the place spoken of, found he had not exaggerated its difficulties. The trail that we were following was so faint that had we not found the swamp, we should have concluded we were on the wrong road. Through it we went, hardly knowing whether we were right or wrong, for there was no way of telling, pushing on keenly to keep the cattle from miring, which threatened to occur every now and then. Several times my boots were pulled off, and I had great difficulty in recovering them again. We had intended making 10 miles at least, as we started at daybreak, but after splurging in and around that swamp all day, when, after dark, we reached a house, we found we had only made 6 miles. The good people of the house were astonished as well as overjoyed to see us, as they had not expected to see the face of living man again till spring. Next day we varied the performance by the absurd movement of going 5 or 6 miles on our course, and, concluding we had gone wrong, retracing our steps, only to be assured we had been right. Pressed on till we came to Pretty Girl River, so named by some amorous and susceptible trapper who swore he saw an angel standing on the bank, dressed in white. Finding a canoe here, we crossed over, encountered another stretch of low swampy prairie, and after a long 2 hours walking, came to a deep slough which we had to wade. It was icy cold and deep enough almost to require swimming at times, when the undercurrent nearly swept us off our feet. After we crossed, we had to drive full 5 miles more. We came then to another slough, and hearing the deep gutturals of Indians on the other side, hailed them to come with a canoe to take us over, the cattle waiting. We went a mile further and came to a house occupied by a Kentuckian who was half drunk, very verbose, and excessively polite. Next morning, we started across the Cowlitz to get breakfast. There were 2 or 3 Indians on the creek, and one of them we got to row us over. These Indians build much more permanently than any I have yet seen. They pick up slabs in the river, and setting them up on end, about 5 feet high, run girders across, and upon them erect rafters, just as we do, shingling with bark, which they cut from the cedar trees. The roof is open in the center, and in the middle of the floor they build a fire, around which they all squat, while the smoke eddying up through the rafters answers the double purpose of curing the salmon hanging there and warming the house. A number of families will live in one lodge, and a dozen fires be lighted, each surrounded by its own circle. They manufacture of rushes a soft kind of mat, which they use to lie upon, and also to hang up on the sides of their lodges to keep off the wind. They do all the boating on the river, no inconsiderable amount. In the flourishing town of Monticello, consisting of 4 houses, we ate our breakfast and listened to the oft-repeated tale of the horrible prospect we had ahead of us.
One could scarcely say when the trail ceased to be simply a trail, and the road actually could be called a road. First, only saddle trains could pass. On the back of a still-jointed, hard-trotting, slow-walking, contrary mule, I was initiated into the secret depths of the mud holes of the trail. And such mud holes, it became a standing joke after the road was opened that a team could stall with an empty wagon going downhill.
The West Side Road was started as the military road, first surveyed in 1855, but not completed along the Cowlitz until 1860. John M. McClelland, Jr., in his book Cowlitz Corridor, Historical River Highway of the Pacific Northwest, describes the map produced of the road between Monticello and Drew's house by W. W. DeLacy from the survey by George Gibbs. This route, called a territorial road, started at Monticello opposite the Red Slough, now Lake Sacagawea, and proceeded north along the bank of the Cowlitz past claims identified as belonging to Nathaniel Stone, Judge Seth Catlin, J.C. Leonard, Alexander Crawford, William Hayes, Hugh McMillan, Alfred Washburns, James Catlin, L.P. Smith, Captain McCorkle, Enoch Chapman, and then took off across a ridge of hills with deep ravines on either side, until it reached Henry Jackson's place on Arkansas Creek. From there, the road re-entered the woods over a gravelly ridge covered with burnt timber, Pumphrey's Mountain, and came out again at the riverbank where Iroquois Creek flows into the Cowlitz. The route then meandered northward through much fallen timber to Mill Creek, where Drew had his mill and farm.
At Monticello, we find one or more stages waiting to convey mails and passengers to Olympia, and if the competition be strong, for very cheap fares. Our stage, on this occasion, is a long, light, open wagon, well loaded down with mail matter. The first 6 miles are along the riverbank, in sand and dust with very little open country in sight, this portion of the Cowlitz Valley being of no great extent. Then commences the crossing of the Cowlitz Mountains. What strikes us most in this drive are the magnificence of the timber on the mountain and the roughness of the country for a highway. In this July weather, it is well enough jolting through the forest and over roots of giant trees and into the hollows between them, but in the rainy season, it is a different undertaking.
We traveled by horseback, by stage, or walk. The stagecoach changed horses at Jackson's. They used 4 or 6 horses depending on the condition of the roads. Sometimes the road was too bad for the stagecoaches to travel, so the passengers had to go by horseback. The roads were sometimes terrible. The military road sounds good, but it was an awful road, really. Father said the men who built it looked for the highest hills and went over them. Pumphrey's Mountain was an awful pull, only 9 miles from Jackson's to Pumphrey's, but so steep a change of horses was needed at the top.
From Monticello, we bounced off into the woods at a rate of 3 or 4 miles an hour. The road was rough beyond description. During the winter rains, it was just impassable and is abandoned. For miles, it is over trees and sticks laid down roughly in swamps, and for the rest, ungraded and simply a path cut through the dense forest. However, the majestic beauty of the fir and cedar forests through which we rode almost continuously for the day and a half that the road stretched out was compensation for much discomfort. These are the finest forests we have yet met. We occasionally struck a narrow prairie, but for the most part it was a continuous ride through forests, so high and thick that the sun could not reach the road, so unpeopled and untouched that the very spirit of solitude reigned supreme and made us feel its presence as never upon ocean or plain.
Give Bill a round of applause. And as he turns on the lights to shed some light, this is an example of a collaboration of many people, organizations. This is part of the reason why we need our collection storage to be as good and as intact as possible, because the images here and some of the shots that Bill took are of items within our collection. This in partnership with the Historic Preservation Commission, which I believe was some grant funding, Bill, that helped train you to operate the software to produce these remarkable films that we hope to get out to the community. That's what it's all about. It's taking objects and telling stories with them, telling our story. And this is just a drop in the bucket of what we could tell with some of the items that we have in our collections. And so this is, I think, a great illustration of this collaboration. And this can't be done by just one person. It's society, it's the county support that we have, being that the county contributes to the operation of the museum. The museum is a department within Cowlitz County, and I thank our county commissioners for supporting the museum all these years. This has been a collaboration since 1953, I believe, when the county gave the museum, the society, some room to have a museum on the 3rd floor of the annex. This is a partnership with other departments within the county, like with building and planning, that the Historic Preservation Commission is under. And so I just want to thank everybody who has helped us out in one way or the other, whether it's through a municipality or through the society or a donor who has given to us in the past. It's a labor of love. It's there's monetary contributions, there's time contributions, there's contributions of ideas. And so this is really a group lift that makes this museum, when you walk through it, a remarkable place. When you look at a county with 110,000 people, you're not going to find many that will have a museum of this caliber with the resources that we have, the collections, the exhibits, the programming. It's just something we should all be very proud of, is what we have here at the Cowlitz County Historical Museum. And with that, I would like to also have Q&A, because I don't want to rob anybody of an opportunity to ask a question of our panelists if they want to come up here too, or of Bill or myself, or any other general comments as well.
I'm just curious about what Pretty Girl River is now. What do we know it as? Oh, it's the Kalama. I missed that.
Yeah.
And the how do you say that?
So the question was, the question from the audience was, Pretty Girl River is the Kalama River.
And the, did you say Cathapoodle?
Catla.
Yeah.
Cathapoodle. Cathapoodle.
Yeah.
Now the Lewis.
Yes.
What did Cathapoodle come from? Cathapoodle.
It's a Chinook name.
Chinook.
There's a major series of Chinook villages right near the mouth at the confluence of the Columbia, near Lake Vancouver. And Lewis and Clark stopped at a prominent one of those villages at Cathapoodle by that name. So the village name is also Cathapoodle.
Not that. And I was glad to hear that. I thought you said they couldn't cross the river because of the rabbits, but it was the rapids.
Yes.
And a hop across. The Cathapoodle is, it was mapped as the Cathapoodle by McClellan when he surveyed the Lewis, what is now Lewis River, for a trail access.
I have not ever heard that. That's wonderful. I like it. How much staff time will you have from Adam Trimble? Do you know? What percentage of the staff?
We'll make them work a lot.
We run through these guys, but really rapidly. I mean, Nick had to become president of the.
I just was curious about that, but yeah, you guys have really held on. Thank you very much for the work. I sure appreciate it. Yeah. I sat in some of those early meetings. And
Thank you for your support. So.
Yeah. Tremendous, really tremendous. Love the films, I have to say.
Are the films available online?
Yes, we have that YouTube channel.
We have them up on the museum's website and also the Historic Preservation Commission's website.
We have some other ones that we did also. So you're in for a surprise.
This is just a little sample. Wet your whistle, get your appetite going. But check out our website. We have more. The trailer. So yeah, the website will have more sequels if you want to watch some sequels. Any other questions about the corridor project or Bill's production? Bill's our new Steven Spielberg here.
Yes.
And by the way, on the separate note, I think he's got a fantastic narration voice. I love Bill's voice on narration. So if there's nothing else, please grab some drinks and snacks to go. Don't feel awkward if you grab something on your way out the door. We grab some stuff for you to nibble on during the meeting, and whatever you don't consume right now will become probably available for the volunteers at Winterfest. So we'll see you at Winterfest in about 3 weeks or so. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
There's 4 of the brochures.